This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosting an array of events from Civil War reenactments to diesel truck pulls. More information online at virginiarodeo.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and we have a very special opportunity today to welcome 2 of the 15 new members of the House of Delegates. Delegate Terry Austin, thank you very much, and Delegate Sam Rasoul. You'll be followed by 2 of your colleagues, and we hope as the session progresses that we will have an opportunity to speak to all 15 of the new members of the class of 2014. Our goal today is to have you talk with the viewers some about legislation that you're working on, if you like, even why you chose to run for office and to be here in the General Assembly. But probably the more important part is even some of the legislation that you're working on. Delegate Austin, we could start with you, and then I'd welcome the 2 of you if you want to converse with each other. That's fine too. You don't have to go through me.
Sure. Well, thank you, David, for inviting us on
Yes.
today. It's a real pleasure of ours. I have 2 bills. One is a House Joint Study for an impoundment structures, HJR 118, and I have a bill, House Bill 1177, which is a request of Bedford County, and it's a water quality study before a building permit would be issued. The applicant would have to prove that there's quality water on the site before the county would issue a building permit. They've had a problem. They're currently paying some debt service where they had to install some capital investment to extend some water lines out to some property owners who could not achieve quality water. So I've got those two bills before the body.
Rasoul?
One of the first bills that I filed focuses on vocational training in hopes to save tax dollars and also for economic development. I'm very happy that even Delegate Austin has signed on to the bill, gaining bipartisan support from several other Republicans. The important thing is that regionally our districts are next to each other, so I look forward to working with Republicans and Democrats from around the region to try to improve Southwest Virginia. So that's kind of the spirit and attitude that I've brought to the table, and I've appreciated that Delegate Austin has done the same.
And Delegate Austin, going back to the bill of Bedford County, our viewers might be interested, but oftentimes members are requested by local governments, and you know that because prior to your being elected to this office, you were in that category of asking Delegate Lacey Putney, who represented your area, or another delegate to introduce a bill.
That's correct. And what I did, I went to all 3 jurisdictions, Allegheny, Botetourt, and Bedford, and asked if they had any legislative priorities. And Bedford had a list of a few, and one of those bills Kathy Barron is carrying. It's a bill to request a study for the requirements on rescue squads, voluntary rescue squads, continued education. I think it's a very worthy consideration. I'm not sure what the end result will be. Volunteer rescue agencies have sort of fallen by the wayside in regard to membership and participation, and it's a very challenging thing today to get people to find time to devote. The Department of Emergency Services is debating that somewhat. They feel like the requirements are necessary, and I somewhat concur, but we've got to find some solutions there. So I carried 2 of those. Ms. Barron, Delegate Barron carried 1, and I was happy to co-patron Sam's bill. I think it's a great bill. I think anytime we can work interjurisdictionally to cut down on some of the cost and benefit the constituency, I think it's a great opportunity.
Seems like I noticed on your biographical information that you'd been involved with the Volunteer Rescue Squad.
I was never a member. I was part of the body who put the first 2 paid career people on in Botetourt County. When I went on the Board of Supervisors, shortly thereafter I was approached by some of the rescue squad associations to help them to do something to relieve or reprieve some of the responsibilities. And after meeting with them and sitting at a table, they wanted some form of concessions for their service. My comments to them was that's not going to increase the participation. So we subsidized by putting 2 career on, and now Botetourt County has 30-some career. So
Okay. Well, electrical contractor from your business experience and healthcare consultant. How does that healthcare consultant then fit in with serving as a member of the House? That give you some extra expertise in an area?
Yeah, well, as a former chief financial officer and chief operating officer of a healthcare company, I've had to sit at the table with people with a variety of interests and try to get big things done, both internationally and domestically. It's the same issue here when we have large problems that we need to solve, including what to do with the health insurance gap. That's going to be a big part of our conversation here in Richmond, and other issues. So the important thing is not to get too caught up in our partisan camps, because the people that we represent in Southwest Virginia are more interested in solutions than partisan bickering.
I think the 2 of you are well representing for our viewers the kind of cooperation that really often takes place here at the General Assembly, but sometimes it doesn't get all of the attention or all the news that it should, and that is that people work oftentimes regionally together regardless of political party.
Yeah.
I think it's good to hear the 2 of you already as incoming first-year delegates doing that.
Yeah, well, our region in particular has lost a lot of clout over the past couple of decades. In the last 2 redistrictings, we've lost representatives to other regions, and so I think that underscores the importance of working together to try to get things done, especially on a regional basis.
And going back a decade or 2, your region certainly had the giants of Delegate Lacey Putney and Delegate Dickie Cranwell. Giants, one a Democrat, one an independent, and really legislative leaders. So as you step into the big shoes left by Lacey Putney, and you're stepping into the ones left by Ansley Ware, who like Lacey Putney and others worked regionally and worked statewide on issues and worked with people in both parties.
And I think that's both Sam and I's intention. We're here to work for the people and to improve the quality of life in Southwest Virginia. I agree with Sam. We've lost a lot of clout in Southwest Virginia, and certainly the loss of Lacey and Dickey and Bo Trumbo and several others was a big voice for back home. And we've got to work collaboratively and cooperatively to increase economic development, bring some jobs to Southwest Virginia, improve some infrastructure in roads and other things that are needed. We really need some economic development.
Not too many years ago, the rural legislators almost dominated. Now, the rural caucus of legislators is much, much smaller. It is.
Yes, it is. And I attended a rural caucus meeting just last week, and there are several people who should be and need to be in that caucus who are not there, and I've spoke with them to make sure we get them there. We need to do everything we can to create those jobs and opportunity.
Tell your your constituents know, but tell our statewide viewers, Sam, starting with you and then with Terry, what committees, as the speaker put you on, what committees are you working on?
I'm on privileges and elections and science and technology. So I look forward to getting my feet wet and learning a lot more.
Yes.
I'm on cities, counties, and towns, which I think refers back to my local government experience, and transportation. And I serve on 2 subcommittees of transportation, which I'm very pleased to do.
Well, you certainly, between the 2 of you, got 4 different committees out of the House that you're working on. In our closing couple of minutes, are there other bills that are not your bills, but you would really want to mention to the viewers that they might want to pay some attention to, that you've already seen in committee or on the floor? Other ones that come to your attention?
Well, for me, I think there are several bills surrounding mental health, but I think mental health is going to be a great area where we can find a bipartisan consensus, and also ethics bills. So I've introduced an ethics bill which prevents local officials from taking campaign contributions from organizations that are in a procurement process for a large amount. So over $5 million. If there is a contract out there for over $5 million, then we should make sure from an ethics standpoint we draw the line. So I think on ethics and mental health, we'll be able to come together and find some good middle ground.
I agree. Ethics is going to be a major topic of discussion, and I agree with some ethics reform. Certainly, mental health is I think the state's almost in a crisis mode in mental health. My sheriff in Botetourt County, Ronnie Sprinkles, told me for years he needs psychiatric help in the jail. Mm-hmm. And I think we're taking people, incarcerating them that need other means of service and help. So I'm looking forward to supporting some mental illness issues also. But I still go back to economic development. I really feel like we've got to get representation from Virginia Economic Development Partnership, and we've got to have representation for jobs.
Yeah, that's certainly crucial to all sections of the Commonwealth, but especially those in the central and western part of the state.
I also think we can spread out the growth and the development in the Commonwealth and alleviate some of the problems in the more congested areas if we were to promote more economic development in Southwest Virginia. So,
yeah. Well, it's big issues that you all are going to be working on, and I look forward to having future conversations with you, both here and having you talk with the viewers. So thank you very much, Delegate Sam Rasoul, Delegate Terry Austin, for your willingness to run and now to represent your constituents. And we look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks for having us.
thank you, Dave, for what you do for the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Again, we welcome 2 members of the class of 2014 here at the General Assembly. And we're delighted to have you on, Delegate Glenn Davis, Delegate Buddy Fowler, Virginia Beach, Hanover County and surrounding region, and appreciate the 2 of you being on to talk with our viewers, not just in your own districts, but statewide, about issues that either bills you're carrying or other ones that you deem really important that you want to mention. Buddy, let me start with you. I call you Buddy because we've known each other for so long, and I should say Delegate Fowler now, but...
Well, that's fine. You know, my given name is Highland, and but my mother obviously gave me the nickname of Buddy, and so it's kind of stuck. So everybody knows me by that. So I figured I need to put that over my door,
Yes.
or else my constituents wouldn't be able to find me.
I'd say, who is this Delegate Highland?
Exactly. So there's a little story behind that. But did you want to ask me about I guess about some legislation?
About any bills
Yeah.
that you're...
Well, I'm actually right now I have like 3 bills that are in the works. One bill has to do with VDOT and how they provide citizens whose property has been sold to the state for road improvements. There's a small group of people that have fallen through the cracks in terms of rental assistance and relocation services. The federal government has passed in the Federal Transportation Act captured those people, and what the VDOT bill would essentially do would be to conform Virginia's statute to the federal one. A second bill I'm carrying for the Game Commission would allow an apprentice hunter to be able to hunt unsupervised once he or she passes the hunter safety course. You know, and then once that apprentice license expires, they could then purchase a regular hunting license. And I'm also working on legislation to kind of change the way cigars are taxed, which currently, as you know, there's an excise tax on those that are paid at the wholesale level. Well, some of the retailers want to change that to a retail sales tax, which of course in that case that you would tax the product after you sell it. So right now we are trying to work out some differences in terms of how do we define what a premium cigar is, as well as establish a retail tax rate that would make the legislation revenue neutral. So I mean, I'm working on those right now. So that's basically minute, and I thought, like say, for a freshman, I thought that's about all I cared about, as my plate was full. So,
right.
Yeah.
Delegate Davis, what
Sure.
are some issues you're working on?
Well, you know, like Buddy, I wanted to stick to things, you know, I knew about, and being an entrepreneur, what interests me most is making sure that we have an economy that helps entrepreneurs and small business owners thrive. So I've got a number of bills in related to property taxes for businesses in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Everything from initially where if someone were to start a business out of their house, the way the code reads today, that the cell phone that they have on their hip, the computer that they may use to send that first email to get a client, even though they already own it and it's used for family purposes, it now becomes subject to property tax for his new business. And to redraft some of that code so that as long as it's primarily used for what they call maintaining their abode or for family purposes, it is not taxed as long as it is not owned or was paid for by a business. And that just helps get rid of that penalty for those people that are going off and taking that risk and trying to start that business. You don't want them to start behind the eight ball the minute they could start.
Oh, that sounds interesting. There are some of us years ago that could have used that,
Right.
and there are plenty of entrepreneurs now that would find that most helpful.
I hope so, and from what I've heard from, well, not only my constituents, but from other small business owners around the Commonwealth, that and some of the other tax bills that I've got in there hopefully will help them, provide a little bit better playing field for them to grow and employ more of the citizens around the Commonwealth.
You bring different levels of experience, different types of experience, I should say, to the General Assembly, from having worked in the legislature for years and having worked in local government and city council. And how do you see the city council experience then benefiting you here at the General Assembly?
Well, first, understanding government in general, how it operates, the uniqueness sometimes, especially when it comes to budgets and categorical, budgets, fund-based budgeting as opposed to your traditional type of budgeting that a company may use. Likewise, to understand the implications when mandates are passed downhill. Having that local government experience, I've been at the bottom end of federal and state mandates. So I understand that up here we have to do what's best for the Commonwealth as a whole. But when I go to make some of those decisions, I understand the implications on local governments and the citizens based upon those decisions.
And Buddy, the breadth of experience that you bring, our viewers from Central Virginia know the name of Frank Hargrove.
Yes, sir.
And you worked with him for many years, and now there's still a Frank Hargrove connection in your office.
That's correct. Of course, I had the privilege of working for Frank Hargrove, who represented the 55th District for 28 years, and then his successor, Delegate John Cox, for 4 years. After talking with Frank Hargrove's daughter, Dale Alderman, she had agreed to come on as my legislative aide. So it's, I guess everything's coming full circle. But so yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it's.
It is.
Things
It
are working
is
well.
Have that Hargrove Fowler connection continue now as it did
Well,
for
to be mentioned in the same sentence with the Frank Hargrove and John Cox is obviously an honor for me. So I just hope I can live up to the standard that they provided.
Well, I think you're you're well grounded, so you're off to a great start. What are some other issues that, not necessarily your bills that you described, but some other issues that you'd want to kind of bring to the attention of the viewers? Delegate Davis, are there some others, either on the committees that you're
Sure.
serving on, or that you've been hearing a whole lot about that you'd like to mention?
Well, there are a number of bills out there. There's some bills, one that's caught my attention on transportation is this bill surrounding Uber. Many people, especially the small business owners and entrepreneurs, have probably read about it in Inc. magazine and Fortune magazine. This gentleman out in San Francisco started this, basically a technology taxi cab / black car company, and they're looking to operate in Virginia. Just an amazing story of a guy that was just waited too long for a taxi and decided to do something about it and start basically a app that would allow you to be able to get the service potentially anywhere in the country. So this year we're looking at going through the process of the regulations and how he fits inside of there, and maybe working with the present industry, but doing things so we can continue to provide the protections and safety of our citizens that they expect from services like this, but also allow these new ideas and these new niches and industries to grow and flourish, and not only have Virginia be known as the place for the best place for business, but the best place for entrepreneurs to start those businesses.
Well, telecommunications is your background,
Yes.
your area of expertise too, so that fits right in.
Yes, sir.
It really does. Tell our viewers statewide, because I know your constituents know, but what committees has the Speaker placed each of you on?
Well, David, the Speaker has assigned me to the House Finance Committee, the House Privileges and Elections Committee, and then the Militia, Police, and Public Safety Committee.
Okay.
And I have education as well as transportation.
Okay, well, five of the committees that the two of you are serving on, and a tremendous number, 15 of you coming in all at the same time,
Very much so.
Yeah.
and so there's a
A
large.
lot of new blood.
That's right, and certainly in each case some big shoes to fill the ones who served on before you.
Yes, sir.
They have. Well, in our closing couple of minutes, are there any other issues that you'd want to mention? I know you'd be communicating with your constituents, but this is a chance just to talk to folks statewide. Any other issues you think they should really be paying attention to as the session progresses?
You know, a big one we're tackling this year is SOL reform, and I don't think you have to live in Virginia Beach, where I'm from, to, have your focus on that. I think that really is a Commonwealth-wide issue. We know there's reform needed. Virginia leads the way in education. Our SOL tests are almost second to none with regards to truly measuring, the level we want the students to be at as they come out of certain grades. But we need to make sure we do it in a manner that doesn't just promote memorization, but promotes critical thinking skills. And I think the teachers and the parents out there probably have a lot of insight they can provide us while we're going through that analysis. So I hope that those out there would reach out to us if they have some ideas that we can look at and do some due diligence with.
And what's the best way for them to get in touch with your office? Is it phone? Is it email? Or what would you suggest?
I would say usually the easiest thing to do is email because we can kind of, respond to that when the time provides. So, but of course we welcome letters, phone calls, and email. So, if folks would like to contact me by email, it's DELB Fowler at house.virginia.gov. And so we welcome the email.
And your email address?
Is very similar. It's DELG Davis, DAVIS, at house.virginia.gov as well.
Yes. Well, that and if people are wondering about their own delegate, so long as they got that right first initial, and in your case, it's not that name that your mother first gave you. It's not the H. It's the B.
And we put the B there for a reason because they wouldn't know who the other guy
That's
was.
right. That's a B for that's a standard email.
Yeah, it's the same for everybody. It's DEL for delegate, first initial, last name. So. Yeah.
At house.virginia.gov.
Works pretty good. I'm getting lots of emails. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell our viewers too, quite a few of them have written in that Blue Ridge PBS station has been willing to have a complimentary copy of the Red Directory sent to anyone who sends an email to TWIR, This Week in Richmond, at capitalsquare.com. Well, thank you both for being on This Week in Richmond. We look forward to having future conversations
Thanks,
with
Thank
you.
you,
David.
David.
I really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to coming back.
Thank you.
you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosting an array of events from Civil War reenactments to diesel truck pulls. More information online at virginiarodeo.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.